Title: Blueprints for a Boy Who Didn't Fit In. My 7-year-old son's voice was small over the phone. "Dad, Mom's new husband is dragging me to the dog kennel. He says he's going to put me in with his Rottweiler to teach me a lesson." I replied, "Don't fight him. I'm 5 minutes away." I loaded my shotgun and promised to myself this would be his last day as the alpha. 5 minutes later, when the paramedics arrived, my ex-wife and her new husband. For 3 weeks straight, Caleb Morgan barely slept, not because of work or bills or anything most men his age worried about. No, Caleb was building something more sacred, his son's 10th birthday. Mason wasn't your average kid. He didn't want clowns or bounce houses or loud crowds. What he wanted, quietly, almost shyly, was a space-themed party where he could feel seen. A rocket ship cake with edible planets, a night sky projector, a control panel made from cardboard and duct tape. Caleb poured himself into it. After long shifts at the warehouse, he'd come home, research star charts, cut foam into asteroid belts, and sketch blueprints for the cake Mason had drawn by hand. This wasn't just about a birthday. It was about showing Mason that his quiet dreams weren't too much. That being different wasn't something to apologize for. Caleb wasn't just planning a party. He was building a moment where his son could stand in front of his friends, not as the awkward space-obsessed kid who got picked last for kickball, but as a commander of his own little universe. And God help anyone who tried to ruin that. Title: The Joke That Wasn't Funny Anymore. Zach Whitaker was the kind of guy who never grew up. Camille's little brother, the family's wild card. The guy who ruined Thanksgiving by lighting a bottle rocket in the living room and once showed up drunk to a baby shower for laughs. At 30, he still lived like a frat pledge who'd lost his way home. So when Caleb saw Zach's name on the birthday guest list, his stomach dropped. "No jokes, no chaos. Stay away from the cake," he warned Zach a week before the party. "This isn't your stage." Zach just laughed, tossing back a beer. "Relax, bro. It's a kid's party, not a UN summit." But Caleb had seen the look in Zach's eyes before, that flicker, that hunger. He didn't pull pranks because he loved fun. He did it to own the moment, no matter who got burned. Literally. Mason didn't deserve that. Caleb had crafted every inch of this party with his son's fragile confidence in mind. One wrong move could shatter it all. And Zach, he wasn't just unpredictable, he was dangerous. Some people bring gifts to a child's birthday. Zach brought gasoline and a grin, and Caleb knew he'd have to watch every second. Title: When the Sky Cracked Open. The day had been perfect. String lights blinked like stars. The backyard looked like NASA and Pinterest had a baby. Mason wore his silver commander cape with pride, guiding his small crew of friends through moon rock scavenger hunts and constellation games. Caleb watched from the grill, heart full. He had done it. His boy, so often overlooked, so often whispered about behind cupped hands, was finally the center of something good. Then came the cake. 3 tiers of black fondant, glowing planets, and a sugar glass rocket ship. The kids gasped. Mason's eyes went wide. He leaned forward to blow out the candles, and that's when Zach made his move. Out of nowhere, he lunged, laughing like a maniac, and shoved Mason's face into the cake. A candle hadn't gone out. Mason screamed, really screamed, and staggered back, cheeks seared, frosting smeared across his glasses. The laughter stopped cold. Caleb was already moving. He caught Mason as he fell, the boy sobbing in confusion, betrayal in his voice. "Dad, why?" And just like that, the sky that Caleb had tried to build collapsed. The cake was ruined, the party shattered. But what hurt most was the trust, burned deeper than the skin. Title: Glass and Consequence. That night, the house was silent. Mason had cried himself to sleep, a cooling gel patch on his burned cheek, his voice gone hoarse from asking the same question over and over. Why would Uncle Zach do that? Did I do something wrong? Caleb sat on the floor outside his son's room, fists clenched. Not out of fury, he'd already moved past that. No, this was something colder, sharper, like steel. At 3 a.m., he walked into the garage, flipped on the light, and found what he was looking for, a Louisville Slugger. Still dusty from his college days, still heavy in his hands. 15 minutes later, he was parked outside Zach's apartment complex, standing face to face with the matte black Dodge Charger Zach loved more than any living human. No mask, no hoodie, just a father who'd reached his limit. Crack. The first swing shattered the windshield, the second caved in the hood. Glass sprayed like angry stars across the pavement. Zach came stumbling out, barefoot and yelling, "What the hell, man?" Caleb turned, calm as a surgeon. "You hurt my son," he said. "That car, that's nothing. Next time it's not going to be glass I break." And just like that, he walked away. Title: The Internet Doesn't Forgive. Caleb didn't post the video. He didn't have to. One of the moms, Rachel, phone always ready, had filmed the whole thing. From the joyful singing to the scream, the burn, the frosting, the silence. Her hands shook as she uploaded it with a single caption. This wasn't a joke. This was a child. By noon, the video had over 80,000 views. By nightfall, it was viral. TikTok duets broke it down frame by frame. Twitter lit up with hashtags like Protect Mason and Cake Assault. Reddit threads analyzed Zach's grin, labeled him a grown man who needs therapy, not birthday invites. People were angry, not the fleeting kind, the bone-deep, we've seen this too many times kind. This isn't a prank, it's assault. He hurt that kid and laughed. That's not funny uncle energy, that's bully energy. Good on that dad. He didn't raise his voice, he raised the bar. Then came the fallout. Zach was fired from his job at the dealership after HR reviewed new information. A local parenting group circulated his name. Brands he'd tagged in his lame influencer posts dropped him. And the best part? Nobody called Caleb violent. They called him what he was, a father who finally said, enough. Title: The Quiet Kid Stood Taller. Mason hadn't said much the first few days. He stayed close to his dad, drew a lot, slept with the lights on. But something was changing, slowly, like dawn slipping through closed blinds. At school, Mason didn't flinch when people looked at the scar on his cheek. When a classmate whispered, "That's the kid from the video," Mason just stared back and said, "Yeah, that was me." By the end of the week, he raised his hand in class. Twice. He started building a solar system model for the science fair, on his own, with toothpicks and glow paint and a little note taped to Saturn that read, "Different doesn't mean broken." At lunch, when he saw another kid getting mocked for bringing Pokemon cards, Mason sat beside him. "Want to trade?" he asked. Just like that, a new friendship formed. And every night before bed, he checked the stars on his ceiling, rearranging the constellations to reflect the real sky. He was healing, not because someone fixed him, but because someone believed in him enough to fight for him. He wasn't Weird Mason anymore. He was Mason Morgan, the boy who got pushed into a cake and came out standing taller. Title: Blood Doesn't Mean Loyalty. Camille had always defended her brother. When Zach lit fireworks in the backyard and nearly set the fence ablaze, she laughed it off. When he borrowed money and forgot to pay it back, she called it bad luck. When he joked too far, drank too much, ruined things, she smoothed it over. "Zach's just Zach," she'd say. "He doesn't mean harm." But the night her son came home sobbing, icing a burn on his face, asking why no one stopped it, something inside her cracked. And when she watched the video, frame by frame, the laughter, the look on Zach's face, the way no one moved until Mason screamed, she broke. Not a loud break, a cold, quiet one, like a rope finally snapping after years of tension. She didn't yell. She didn't call Zach. She packed up the framed childhood photos of him from their shelves, took down the family holiday portrait, deleted his contact, and the next Sunday, when her mother called asking if they were still coming to brunch, Camille said something she never had the courage to say before. "If Zach will be there, we won't be." There was silence on the line, and for once, Camille let it sit. Because protecting your child isn't betrayal. It's finally choosing the right side of love. Title: The Stars Know His Name. 6 months later, the scar on Mason's cheek had faded to a soft line, barely visible unless you knew where to look. Caleb knew, but he didn't see it as damage anymore. He saw it as proof that his son had been hurt and survey. That Friday night, Mason set up their telescope on the back deck. He had a clipboard, 3 colored pencils, and a fresh constellation chart he'd drawn himself. "Found it," he said, pointing. "Right there, Orion's belt." Caleb smiled. "Nice work, Commander." Mason turned. "Can we name a star? For real?" "There are websites. You can register it and everything." Mason paused, then whispered, "I want to name it after you." Caleb froze. "Why?" "Because you were the first person who ever made me feel big, like I mattered, like I didn't have to hide who I was." Caleb knelt beside him, eyes stinging. "You never had to hide, Mason. Not from me. Never." They stared at the sky together, father and son, a man who had built a universe out of cardboard and courage, and a boy who found his voice beneath the stars. And in that moment, Caleb knew. He hadn't just protected his child, he had set him free.